evening. Good to have you with us on this edition of the Urban Debate. Unfortunately, we start off with a really shocking, depressing and upsetting story. And let me forewarn you about the details. It's a story, it's a news development you must know about. A horrific crime by this monster whose face you're looking at right now. A story that you may not have heard about, but a big crackdown by the CBI. And the details may send shivers down your spine. A man who worked as an engineer with the irrigation department of the government of Uttar Pradesh abused over 50 children, minors, little children. He abused them physically, mentally, and sexually. What's more shocking, rather disgusting, is the fact that he'd been doing this for over a decade now, and nobody caught a whiff of the story. Until now, when the CBI, that's been looking into the larger child porn racket online, came across this man and then further investigated this case. Let me explain to you how he really functioned all this while. This man would gift mobile phones and cash to these little innocent children, unsuspecting children. He would then use cloud storage services to store the illegal content. He lured these children by offering them mobile phones, by offering them treats, sexually abused them, threatened them to not reveal any information to anyone, recorded various acts that I don't really want to get into the details to give you, don't want to go into those graphic details at all. He then recorded those acts, photographed and video recorded, made films of it, and sold it online. Little children, content available to pedophiles not only in India but across the world over the dark web. Now, we've been telling you how child porn is being sold at a massive scale on the dark web across the world. And of late in India, there's been a massive crackdown, right, from Uttar Pradesh all the way down to Kerala, Maharashtra, across the country. But this story, viewers, is more upsetting because this predator managed to target little children for a decade, if CBI is to be believed about what they have been finding and investigating so far. He's now been arrested and is in jail. But imagine the horror that those little children would have gone, and the fact that they were threatened into silence and they never mentioned it all these years. Just to also let you know, the number of victims of child sexual abuse in the last few years, in terms of at least the reportage of it, has staggeringly climbed. 48 victims in 2016, 339 in 2017. That's now in 2019 crossed over 1,000. It's an increase of 22 times in 4 years. A lot of this, of course, because there has been a conscious crackdown, but a lot more has to be done. And that's the story we're going to discuss this evening. Let's say good evening to Arvind Kumar Jain, former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, Dhir Mishra, resident editor of Navbharat Times, Ritesh Bhatia, cybercrime expert who's done extensive work specifically in this field of crime, Preeti Mahara, Director of Policy, Research and Advocacy with CRY, also joins us this evening. Good evening to all of you. Mr. Jain, I want to start off with you from a policing point of view. In the last couple of years, we've seen a lot more of a crackdown, arrests being made, rackets being busted. But just for us to try and understand how something like this can go unnoticed for so long, he managed to target over 50 children. At some point, the system seems to be broken.
Actually, he's posted at Chitrakoot. I don't know how he has managed to remain there for the last 10 years. Those areas are very poor areas. Chitrakoot, Banda, Hamirpur, and most of the victims are from these three districts. Their poverty is too much, and I think he took advantage of that. He belongs to that area only, and just to keep them silent, he used to give them money. He used to give them mobile phones. So that's how I think this all continued for the last 10 years, and it's very shocking. It is very shocking that the police forces there could not get a whiff of all this going on in that region. But now action is being taken, and I think UP police, ATS, STF, they should all cooperate with the CBI and bust the entire racket.
Are there checks and balances in place? I know we are improving on this system, as we go along, but Preeti Mara, for suspected pedophiles, isn't there a register that exists with law enforcement agencies? Aren't there alerts in the system? Otherwise, I mean, if somebody can go unchecked for 10 years, that's a huge concern.
Yes, and Tanvi, what is more important and concerning is, why as the responsible adults or the adults around, those children are not able to observe any changes in the behavior of children, or they were not able to understand what is happening around them, and why children were not able to, come out and share it with anyone. So these are the major concerns. Where are we failing? We are miserably failing, empowering our children. As far as the registration of pedophile, currently there is no such system in the country, but government has, proposed one such thing, but I think it will take time, and there are pros and cons related to it. But what one thing that I want to really, highlight is, no doubt technology, is a boon, but the fact also is, the internet has made this child sexual abuse material easily available. It is extremely low risk, hugely profitable, and have no geographical boundaries. And definitely, the vulnerabilities, the more the vulnerabilities increases, the chances of, children coming out of the falling out of the safety net becomes more. And what we need to understand is, this crime here in this case, has virtual engagement, but the victims are not virtual, they are real. Their sufferings are real, their vulnerabilities are real. They need support from the system and the society, but it is definitely lacking. Ironically, this is also a reality. So such cyber crimes are, always hidden, but what is not visible doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It does exist, very much exist, but there is, lots of conspiracy of silence around it.
Yes, and I think that's one of the main factors that we will also have to address and spread awareness amongst children and amongst parents. Ritesh Bhatia, and you've often spoken about it, the fact that, people are unaware. And when they get caught and when they are trapped, they really don't know what to do. A lot of them don't ever speak up about it. Ritesh, that's been largely the trend that we've seen.
Yes. So, firstly, Tanvi, thank you so much. Once again, whenever there is an issue related to child sexual abuse material, you and your entire team, you pick it up because you guys realize that how bad that this particular entire thing is and how it is spreading. So, thanks once again for having a debate on this. Now the thing is, this particular thing is just like spreading, and you know what, I would want to tell the viewers that don't think that this is an act which just happens in villages or anything. With the kind of cases that we have gone through, we are seeing this a lot even in the metropolitan cities, and the trend of online grooming is just like gaining momentum. So we need to be extremely careful. Parents will have to realize that what they're doing. Again, we are posting a lot many pictures, and you remember, like, last time I told you, like, there are, like, on the dark web, when we saw it, when we we were investigating and we saw it, there were like, babies, like three-year-old babies. Some were even like smaller than that also. So parents will also have to understand that we don't have the consent of our children to put the pictures online. So we got to be very, very careful, and it's got nothing to do whether you're in like a village or in a tier 2 city, or whether you're in a metro. The pedophiles are all over. There is a great demand of it on the dark net, and people are paying like a kind of a bomb to get such images. Forget the videos. And lastly, Tanvi, let's also not forget that the victims, the perpetrator is, the victims mostly know the perpetrator. So this is not a perpetrator who came out of the blue and he did this. He really knew, he was stalking the kids, and he befriended them, and he's done all this. So we need to be like very, very sure whom our children are speaking to, and we need to tell them about such sharks. Tanvi.
So, there are two aspects to it, and we've briefly touched upon both of those aspects, but I want to now break it down. One is the fact that this man was able to have access, able to reach out to these children in a small town in Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Mishra, that he went unnoticed and he was able to target 50, we know. That's what the CBI is telling us right now. We don't know if there were more, if he was able to do this for at least 10 years. And the second, of course, part is what I'll come to later on, which is the online part of it. But how do we fix this challenge that a government official in a small town had access to, was able to lure in children, sexually abuse them, record it, and went completely unnoticed for this long a time?
सर ये एक ऐसी मानसिक बीमारी है जो लोग इसके बीमार हैं, जिनके अंदर ये खराब आदत है, ये मानसिक विकृति है, वो बहुत चालाक होते हैं, बहुत चतुर होते हैं। और आपको याद होगा कि 10-15 साल पहले निठारी कांड हुआ था उत्तर प्रदेश में। तो इसमें 2-3 तरीके के लोग होते हैं। एक तो वो होते हैं जो सुरेंद्र कोहली जैसे और पंढेर जैसे लोग होते हैं, जिन्होंने सेक्सुअली अब्यूज किया, बच्चों को रेप किया और मार भी डाला। तो दूसरी तरफ ऐसे लोग भी होते हैं जो राम भवन जैसे लोग होते हैं, जो कि बहुत ही स्मार्टली बच्चों को एक्सप्लॉइट करते हैं और बच्चों को लालच देते हैं और बच्चों को डरा धमका कर रखते हैं कि वो कहीं पे अपनी जुबान ना खोलें। राम भवन का मामला तो सीबीआई ने बहुत अच्छा काम किया है कि एक ऐसे आदमी को पकड़ा। मुझे बीच में मैंने काफी बेघर बच्चों पे काफी काम किया हुआ है 8-10 साल पहले, मैंने बच्चों से बात की है। तो जो ये स्टेशन पे बच्चे रहते हैं, इनको बहुत सेक्सुअली अब्यूज किया जाता है। तमाम लोग हैं, मतलब हमारी सोसाइटी में, हमारे इर्द गिर्द, अगल बगल, घर परिवारों के भीतर ऐसे तमाम लोग हैं। और ये एक ऐसी स्थिति है कि जब तक कि सीबीआई ने इस मामले में, चूंकि ये एक इंटरनेशनल क्राइम था जिसमें सीबीआई ने पकड़ा, अदरवाइज मैं मतलब सिर्फ ये एक मामला नहीं है, ये बहुत बड़ा मामला है। और इसमें खास तौर से वो बच्चे शिकार होते हैं जिनके या तो पेरेंट्स ध्यान नहीं देते, या फिर जो बहुत गरीब तबके के होते हैं, जिनको लालच देकर या किसी दूसरे डरा धमकाकर जिनको ये लोग अपना शिकार बनाते हैं। अब इसमें जिम्मेदारी आती है सोसाइटी की, समाज की और परिवार की, कि वो खुद देखे कि अगर कोई छोटा बच्चा किसी के घर में जा रहा है या कोई बहुत ज्यादा इन्वॉल्व है, तो उस पर नजर रखनी चाहिए। आमतौर पे लोग शक नहीं करते कि छोटे बच्चों के प्रति किसी ऐसे पेडोफिलिक का क्या व्यवहार, क्या सोच हो सकती है। अब दुनिया के दूसरे देशों में बच्चों को छूने के, टच करने के, उनके फोटोग्राफ लेने के बहुत सख्त कानून है। हमारे देश में उतना नहीं है। वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में तो अक्सर फादर दूसरे होते हैं, शादियां कई होती हैं, तो छोटे बच्चे फादर के साथ लेट भी नहीं सकते एक बिस्तर पे। तो ऐसी चीजें वहां बहुत प्रिकॉशंस है, लेकिन हमारे यहाँ माना ही नहीं जाता है कि ये प्रवृत्ति काफी लोगों के भीतर होती है। इसे समझने की जरूरत
जी। और जैसे आपने कहा, एक तो वो थ्रेट रहता है जो अपने ही सर्कल में जान पहचान के जो लोग रहते हैं, आप ही के रिश्तेदार होंगे, योर नेबर्स, people in your own circle, and then comes the aspect of a stranger. But so here is the point, Mr. Jain, जो सुधीर मिश्रा जी भी कह रहे हैं कि इसमें सोसाइटी का भी क्या बहुत बड़ा रोल होना ज़रूरी है कि ध्यान दे, और पुलिसिंग में भी ये ध्यान दे, ये आदमी को जब वो 50 बच्चों को कहीं एक एक करके लेके गया, ऑन एंड ऑफ वो ये कर रहे थे, उनके पास पूरा एलैबोरेट सिस्टम था, वो ये रिकॉर्ड कर रहे थे, बच्चों को लेके गए होंगे किसी एक जगह पे, ये इंसिडेंट बार बार हुआ और ये किसी के भी नोटिस में ना आए। ये जो पुलिसिंग है इंटरनेशनली, इसमें बहुत नेबरहुड पुलिसिंग भी चलती है, क्या इस तरीके का सिस्टम हमें भी देखना चाहिए? कैसे इसको सॉल्व करेंगे? नहीं तो
बिल्कुल देखना चाहिए, इस तरह का सिस्टम बिल्कुल बनाना होगा। सोसाइटी को बड़ी कड़ी निगरानी रखनी होगी, पेरेंट्स को अपने बच्चों पर रखनी होगी, बड़े भाई बहनों को अपने छोटे भाई बहनों पर रखनी होगी कि वो कहाँ जा रहे हैं, क्यों जा रहे हैं, क्यों इतना ज्यादा उसको विजिट कर रहे हैं। All this will have to be done if we want to crack down on such people, because such people are there, but there have been isolated cases during my service tenure. There were isolated cases of a single child was sexually exploited, and such people were caught and they were sent to jail. But this is a bigger, very big racket now, and cyber labs will have to be created on a large scale, and CBI will have to interact with Interpol and with other countries quite often, and they should try to get as much information as possible through Interpol from other countries, because Interpol is the licensing agency for all the countries, and this information also must have come to CBI through Interpol, because some foreign country reported this matter. So either they reported it directly to CBI, or they reported it through Interpol. It's one and the same thing, but it's very serious. And I think if this entire racket will be unearthed, I think several people will be caught, and it's a very good catch for CBI. I would like to congratulate CBI for this.
Oh yes, absolutely. I would agree with you that at least the crackdown is happening. They're taking this seriously. They've been following up on these leads for a long time. Coordinating internationally, because obviously it's an international racket. There are emails that have been found where it's very clear that for a really long time he was in touch with clients, not just in India but internationally. It's a network and a racket that has people across the world. And once the internet and dark web really comes into play, all of this is very easy, Ritesh. Isn't that also the point? Now, for the investigative agencies to understand this new challenge, what is required? How do they prepare themselves?
So Tanvi, how it is now? Firstly, the dark web works very differently. You don't use like a normal browser as such, like a Chrome or a Safari. You need something like Tor, the Onion router, and that is where when you start that browser, there are like on the dark web there are like so what is basically dark web? This entire internet is kind of into two parts. So one I would say is the surface web, where we all are like whatever the Facebooks and the Googles and whatever we see using a browser. And then there is the deep web, that is the code behind all these things. Within that deep web, I would say there is like a dark web. Now over here, this particular dark web, you need to have your own browser, as I said, Tor. Here the domain names also end with .onion. These are not like .co or .in or .com. So once you go over there, they have their own search engines. You just do a search related to this particular issue, and you get some results. And this is where the dark web comes in picture. And it's quite anonymous. But if there is like a lot of cooperation of the ISPs worldwide, not just of India, then it's easy to crack down. And FBI and all have also cracked it down earlier. So the main thing is, even in this particular case, they would have definitely found this particular browser. The Tor browser as such. They would have got all this. Moreover, there is also a lot of responsibility on the devices also, because now with the AI setting in, the artificial intelligence, where you're able to just unlock yourself, there are apps that can identify you. You have platforms which can say, okay, is this person? They're able to identify. So I'm sure there are technologies that where these big platforms and manufacturers can embed, wherein it can notify a particular agency that, okay, this is a particular, of course, there are going to be a lot of false positives, but this is kind of so many videos, are being uploaded or are over here. So there are many things that can be done, especially with the latest tech that we have. And
Yes,
that's where Cyber Lab will have to come into picture.
Also, Ritesh, in this case and the previous couple of cases that we spoke about, the racket that was busted in Maharashtra or even Kerala, we were given to understand that while a lot of this child sexually abusive material is available on the dark web, the transactions and the initial reach out is happening on your other social media apps. Instagram,
Right.
Telegram. These are the platforms where they're actually reaching out to their prospective clients, so to say. Is there a role that these social media platforms will also have to play then?
There is a big role of the social media platforms. There's actually a big role, whether you call it like the Facebooks or the Telegram or the WhatsApp, they have. And as I told you earlier also, there are these technologies which can actually identify. They may say or talk about end-to-end encryption and other things, but there's a lot more that they can do, and then they can caution, or they can inform, rather, not caution, sorry. They can inform the agencies that this needs to be done, and they need to take it up very, very seriously. My experience with one of the platform was not so great. They really didn't bother about it. So such things should be literally, they should be penalized and taken to the courts, because they're kind of doing nothing. And this is, if you ask me, amongst all the cyber crimes that happen, whether it is the financial crimes or anything else, extortion and so on, I would say the most dangerous and something that's gaining momentum rapidly would be CSAM, the child sexual abuse material. So it's high time. Great, CBI did this. I think there's a lot to uncover. They're going to find many more such. This is just the tip of the iceberg, Tanvi.
So, and the one part is that we can, by having these conversations also repeatedly, help people understand, help parents understand, children, young teenagers, who are at that vulnerable age, understand what are the dangers out there. But then, like Mr. Mishra was saying, there are also those children who are left unattended, those amongst the poor circles who become easy prey. Now, Preeti, in that aspect then, what can be done to safeguard them?
See, so before talking about how to safeguard them, we need to understand where we are failing, and I think we are failing, strategically addressing the issue at three levels of approach. One is, at the preventing part, we are failing to focus on creating awareness of parents, children, caregivers. This I highlighted earlier also in the larger society. And also, I think somewhere we are failing to convey the message to parents and children about the unsafe situation and their vulnerabilities. Parents, children, and teachers are not cyber literate and are not cyber educated. And the biggest problem in creating awareness among parents about child sexual abuse or the CSAM has two challenges. One is, it is of course technologically driven. It is not very easy for people to understand, especially people who are illiterate or are less educated. And the second one, it has sexual connotations, and we all know that in our society talking about sexuality is still a taboo. So people do not understand the concept of cyber grooming, cyber safety norms, and knowing issues about privacy of self and others. Then what is also difficult is there is a huge, always remains a huge gap between parents and teachers, or parents or children, or teachers or children, or any responsible adult. So we need to bridge this gap. We need to have more conversation with children. We need to tell them what is safe and unsafe situation, or safe or unsafe touch also. Why I already raised this issue, that why children are not able to trust us adults, why they are not coming forward and telling us that this is what is happening with them. The issue is, of course, they are not able, first is they are not, I think they are not able to understand, they are not able to recognize that this is actually abuse is happening with them. Right. So this is one issue. And the second issue is, of course, when they are realizing it, they are not able to reveal it to, or disclose it to anyone. So there is definitely a lack of trust on adults. So this is the second issue. The third issue is related to the proactive approach, where the child or the parent or any person in the society is is able to recognize it and want to approach the system, but doesn't know about the redressal mechanisms, where to report, how to report, and whether the system is ready to actually take up the cases. We know that there are delays, there are hurdles in reporting, in victim support, witness protection, victim compensation. So there are a lot of issues because people will come forward. In the when you opened the debate, you talked about the rising cases of child sexual abuse and other abuse incidents. This is actually, I see it as a child protection person, I see it as a positive trend, frankly
Right.
speaking, because now people are coming forward.
Right.
Look, the people are coming forward and talking about it, reporting it. So it's a good sign. Where it is not being reported doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, right?
Absolutely.
The system is also preparing
So
itself,
in fact,
to respond.
you're absolutely right, and that's that was the other aspect I wanted to talk about, the hesitance that people have to report this, even if they find out that something's been done to their child. The hesitance that parents may have, or lack of awareness to how to go about it, and I'll come to that in a bit for more. But Mr. Mishra, you wanted to make a point earlier.
मेरा कहना ये है कि जो फैमिली में रहते हैं बच्चे, जो अच्छे वेल ऑफ फैमिलीज हैं, वहां तो ये सब चीजें ध्यान रखी जा सकती हैं। लेकिन जो गरीब तबका है और खासतौर से जो बेघर बच्चे हैं, बहुत सारे बच्चे हैं जो कामकाजी बच्चे हैं, काम करते हैं तमाम जगहों पे, और जो गरीब बच्चे हैं उनका कोई भी ख्याल रखने वाला नहीं है। और बाल आयोग जैसी एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडी है जो जहां पे खाली मुझे लगता है कि ज्यादातर लोग नॉन सेंसिटिव वहां पे जाते हैं, राजनीतिक नियुक्तियां हो जाती हैं, जबकि बाल आयोग जैसी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडी में ऐसे एक्टिविस्ट होने चाहिए जिनको वाकई बच्चों के प्रति जो जिम्मेदार हो और संवेदनशील हो, और बच्चों से बात करनी चाहिए, बच्चों से पूछना चाहिए कि बेटा, सर्वे होने चाहिए लोगों में, जो बच्चे बाहर हैं, रोड पे हैं, स्टेशन पे हैं और सड़कों पे काम कर रहे हैं, तो उनसे बात होनी चाहिए कि बच्चों कोई ऐसी कोई समस्या तो नहीं है। उनके साथ में स्वयंसेवी लोग जाएं, बात करें, उनसे बातों को निकालें, क्योंकि फैमिली में तो खैर पेरेंट्स बात कर लेंगे, लेकिन जो बच्चे फैमिली से बाहर हैं या सड़क पे निकल के काम कर रहे हैं, उनका ख्याल रखने की जरूरत है। और बाल आयोग जैसी एक बॉडी है हमारे पास, जहां अगर सेंसिटिव लोग हों, संवेदनशील लोग हों, तो इन चीजों को रोका जा सकता है।
नहीं, आपने ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात करी कि एक ऐसी अथॉरिटी जो ज़्यादा एक्टिव रहे, प्रीति महारा, इन दिस फील्ड, दैट्स आल्सो रिक्वायर्ड, एंड आई एम नॉट टू अवेयर ऑफ इट, बट डू वी हैव इनफ एक्टिव सेल्स अक्रॉस द कंट्री फॉर दिस रीजन?
Tanvi, a very simple message that we give to the children and to the community in cry. When you feel that a child is in problem, please dial 1098 1098 child helpline number. First. Second is dial 100 number. Dial 100 number. Then National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights, जो सर अभी बात कर रहे थे, बाल आयोग है, राष्ट्रीय बाल आयोग है, and there are state child protection commissions also, child rights commissions also. NCPCR has an online portal जहाँ पे पॉक्सो के केसेस, कंप्लेंट्स आप डाल सकते हैं, एंड साइबर क्राइम सेल के लिए भी ऑनलाइन कंप्लेंट करी जा सकती है. सो देयर आर डिफरेंट मैकेनिज्म. व्हाट इज इम्पोर्टेंट इज टू pass on this message, create awareness about these redressal mechanism, and reach out to each and every child and tell them that this is where you can get help from. And we have then village child protection committees, we have school management committees. Children, the only problem is somewhere we are not able to create that trust.
When you talk about child protection committees, it reminds me of the series of instances that emerged from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh especially, where the child protection committee members themselves were involved, and the most horrific kind of crimes allegedly took place in these shelter homes. And so I think the entire system that needs an overhauling, and we need to start taking it a lot more seriously. To the other point, Mr. Arvind Kumar Jain, that Preeti was also making, the fact that people don't know where to report, how to go about it, or are hesitating, that has to be a big reason. अगर 50 बच्चे या उनसे ज़्यादा बच्चे टारगेट हुए, कोई ना कोई तो होगा जिसके पेरेंट्स को पता चला हो, पर उनको समझ नहीं आया क्या करना है, या वो नहीं चाहते थे, or they didn't want to take action. There would have been some of these cases. Now, is there also some amount of change in reaction and attitude from the police department that is required to encourage people to come out and talk about it more?
There are debates. Women police officers go to various schools and they meet principal teachers from time to time, and sensitization program is also there. But there is need for a wing in every state police force. The wing, the type of wing which you have in CBI, every state police force should have trained people working in that wing. And I think it will make a lot of difference if proper publicity is done of such a wing, and people will come forward and they will report cases. As you know, in rape cases also, family pressure is there that do not report the case. So might be in this case also, but as I mentioned earlier, in Chitrakoot, Banda, Hamirpur, there is extreme poverty. There is extreme poverty, and parents can be won over very easily. And he might have apologized to one or two parents. No, I didn't mean this. I didn't mean that. And so all this thing is happening. And but it is very, very shocking that for 10 years, such a thing didn't come to the notice of police forces there. It was not made public. Otherwise, action would have been taken against this man. He just took advantage of the poverty of the region, I think.
Probably, yes, probably. He was more active in Chitrakoot. The CBI seems to suggest that there is a gang, and there are a lot more people he's connected to, which operate largely in Chitrakoot, Banda and Hamirpur. Those are the areas where this specific gang seems to be operating. So the CBI actually found out and was tipped off about this entire child sexual abuse material racket, which was thriving online. That's where the investigation started off, and then they reached this point. They registered a case. This man was under the radar. They did further investigation. That's when actually they found out that his crime wasn't just limited to sharing this or selling this sexually abusive material online, but he was in fact victimizing, targeting these children himself, and sexually abusing and physically abusing these children himself, luring them in and targeting them himself, which is when they realize the gravity of this specific case. This official has, of course, now been suspended, and they are now questioning him about other, contacts. So the CBI obviously also slowly dug deeper into this entire thing to realize that at least in this case, unlike the other cases that we've seen so far, Ritesh, this man was also sexually abusing the children himself, 50 children at least. But let's also talk about the larger modus operandi that we have seen and how those guys target children online.
So basically, Tanvi, there are various things, but one of them, which is like, kind of happening frequently now, is there are these people, and like, for example, let me talk about one particular case that has just happened now, and we had a tough time explaining the parents that why they should be reporting it. I mean, it was Nirali, so she's a cyber psychologist, and she really had to convince them that why they had to do it and all that. And the girl was comfortable talking only and only to Nirali and not to her parents as such. Just a small little girl, 12-year-old, and she was a victim of online grooming. And the boy who's over there is like a very, very well-educated person, and he saw her profile on Instagram. He got in touch with her. He started talking to her and to this 12-year-old girl, and for over 30 days he was just saying things to her so that he could win her trust. And it such happened that the girl was completely under this person's control, and then he recorded her while she was completely nude, and that too over the internet. It was not that he was at his place and all, and he just forced her, he just lured her, and she kept doing that, and she trusted him so much. So this is what is online grooming, and this is happening, and this case has happened in Mumbai. So parents need to understand. They always say, no, our children can't, it can't happen with our children. No, this is the cyberspace is very, very unforgiving. It can happen to anyone, the rich, the poor, anyone, it can happen. So you really need to see the telltale signs, and even when you're there with the children, tell them about these cases in the form of stories. You don't have to tell them, like, to scare them. Okay, look, many of the parents will say, okay, I want to take your mobile back. Don't do things like that. Talk to them, tell them these in the form of stories. So here is one way that it is happening. The second way that is also happening is, like, as man from Christ said it so rightly, that these are mostly the insiders and the family relatives and all who are doing certain things like this. So we have to understand that, because now there are like spy cams available. They are like as small as like the buttons. If I had to put it up, you wouldn't be able to recognize whether it's a button or it's a spy cam. They sometimes put it in the in the bathrooms, in the children's bedroom. So a lot of this is happening, and this is what everybody needs to understand. And by and large, the general public, they really need to understand one thing, that the good touch, bad touch is not just for children. It's even for you to understand that when somebody is touching a child whom even you don't know, you can actually make it out whether that was a good touch or a bad touch. Take action at that point of time. So Tanvi, these are like, the things I would say on the internet. Yes, this is happening, and quite a lot is also because of like some, like, online grooming is one part and threatening is another part,
Yeah.
which is like kind of extortion, when they are like playing games and all, and the boy says or the girl says, look, I want to be part of this, and then he says, okay, you'll have to do me this favor. Some of them ask for the parents' credit card details, but some of them ask for like pictures, and then they try to sextort them, and then they ask for more nudes, and then videos and whatnot. So these are the two things. One is like gaining the trust, which is online grooming, and the other is like the sextortion part of it, which is more of the threatening. So the kids and
Right.
the parents and everybody in the ecosystem needs to know about this.
Yes, and one more aspect, and I wanted to highlight, and Preeti, maybe you could come in on it. Like Ritesh said, across backgrounds, rich or the poor, urban or rural, everybody is vulnerable. It's also across genders. A lot of these cases, including the one that we are talking about right now from Uttar Pradesh, it was boys age 5 to 14 who were primarily being targeted. So people also need to be aware that boys are as vulnerable to this kind of a horrific crime as girls are.
Yes, Tanvi, the child sexual abuse, it doesn't have the boundaries of caste or religion, age, strata, economic strata, or any geographical boundaries. It can happen with any child in any, any place. We did a study on online safety and internet addiction, and we did it in Delhi and NCR area, the semi-urban, urban areas, and most of the children were school-going children, going to government schools, and they have so almost 90% children they had access to mobile phones. They had their mobile phones. 60% boys were having their own mobile phones, and 40% girls. Um, but even if children doesn't have their own mobile phones, but they can always be lured, as in this case, and can be can be exploited. So definitely, but it happens that when, as I said, when the vulnerabilities increases, there are chances of children falling from the safety net also increases. One thing that I want to highlight is the COVID pandemic. The vulnerabilities has increased many folds, and the internet penetration, the internet engagement, and the children's engagement with the internet across all the society has increased, and this has increased the chances of the online cyber grooming, as Mr. Bhatia was talking about. So these are the real challenges, and these are needed to be addressed as soon as possible. Otherwise, it is going to be very, very difficult to have the safeguards in place.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, just to give our viewers a sense of, the kind of reports that have emerged just in the last couple of years, and like Preeti was saying, a lot of it is to the data that suggests that there is more reporting, there is more seriousness from the law enforcement agencies to look into these cases, investigate them, crack down. And let me give you a sense. It's not just about this one case that's emerged from Uttar Pradesh, but 46 people were held in Maharashtra, and this happened in this year around April, where 130 different FIRs were filed in terms of child sexually abusive material that was being sold across. There was also, an international racket that was busted that had links not just in our country but a lot of European countries as well. That's actually how a lot of this emerged. Then a large set of FIRs were also filed in Kerala, where a massive racket was busted and people were arrested. So little by little, the state police departments and CBI, that's why they've been brought in, are now picking up people and busting this racket. But we still can't imagine the scale of it. And imagine the number of children who would have already been victimized, terrorized, traumatized, and they probably have never spoken about it, not even to their parents. Think about that. We need to arm ourselves with more information, make ourselves aware of how this happens. Who are the predators? How do they function? How do they target children? How do they get in touch with the children? How do they then trap the children? Imagine for a man working in one small little government office in a place like Chitrakoot to be able to target and victimize over 50 children, to go unnoticed for a decade, to be part of an international racket, to have clients across the world to whom he was selling the videos of the horrific acts that he himself was involved in. We need to take this a lot more seriously at every local administration, local state police level, as well as at the national level, and go after the perverts and the predators who are lurking out there targeting innocent children. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Welcome back. This is a story that has shocked all of us about a man, a pedophile, a predator who targeted little children over a decade, sexually abused them, threatened them, intimidated them, recorded these acts, and then sold those videos online and went unnoticed for a decade. Bhavtosh is joining me with the details. Bhavtosh, the one who got us this story. Bhavtosh, the CBI has been on this lead for a while now. If you can help our viewers understand, how did they come across this information? How did this entire case unfold?
Tanvi, CBI has a special unit called O-Case, which is Online Child Abuse Material Unit. This unit is part of the Special Crime Unit, which is based out of New Delhi. This unit works in close tandem with their counterparts in foreign countries, and sources have said that a foreign country provided them the initial input about certain pedophiles who were getting child sexual abuse material from India. After which a team of officers led by an SP rank officer camped in Banda, which is in central UP, for over a week, and then finally nabbed Ram Bhavan, who was working as junior engineer in UP's irrigation department. But very shocking details have emerged since this person has been arrested. A, he was not working alone. There was a group of people who were not only physically abusing the children, but also filming the entire act and then selling the child sexual abuse material online. Now, they had in fact used darknet, and CBI is presently questioning the main accused in this case as to how he learned to use dark web, how he was in direct touch with people overseas via email. CBI has also said that they have recovered 8 mobile phones, electronic gadgets, laptops, pen drives, memory cards, and he used to lure young kids in the age group of 5 to 16. All of them are in fact boys, by saying that he will provide them with free electronic gadgets. Once he used to entrap them, he used to sexually assault them, and then used to sell this content online at a very high price. In fact, his list of clients includes people not only in India, but pedophiles who are very active in Europe as well as in US. CBI has said that all those who in fact watch this content will also be arrested, because that is also a criminal offense as far as Indian laws are concerned.
All right, Bhavtosh, so we wait to see, what more they find. Like you said, that this is a big racket that they're looking at. A lot more people may be involved. Massive crackdown that happened first in Kerala and Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh. Now also more details emerging. Thanks so much, Bhavtosh, for bringing us this story.